Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
I'm your girl, Dr. Dangerfield,
And I am Dr. Patience.
and we're back for another month.
Yes, I'm excited about
I
this.
am too.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to our topic for today.
Yes, I think it's going to be a really good one today. I love talking about attachment styles, just because we
I'm
are
glad
always...
you had the styles part too, because some people just hear attachment, they're like, but that's so bad. No, attachment styles actually are good.
They're actually very good, and I love to talk about it because it just is our field. It just gives us a lot of insight into how our clients are showing up in the world, and
Yes.
so we are able to help them navigate some difficulties or some barriers or some challenges that they might be having. So this is going to be a really good topic. You can see it's just us today.
Yeah, we don't have a guest.
We don't have a guest because we can tackle this topic on our own. We don't need to bring in an expert on it. Not that there are not people who really have focused in on this and make this their thing, but because we deal with it so consistent, y'all might forget, but we are licensed professional counselors,
and we do practice.
We do practice. We know we bring people in and we be in here acting crazy, but
we do practice.
We do help others, you know. So I'm excited about this topic, and so. Why, Dr. Dangerfield, do you think we leaned in so much to this topic today, and why we wanted to make this something that we brought to our audience?
Well, one is because we see it.
Yes.
We see it in our work, and we have conversations. And the funny part about it is, like, this weekend, Dr. Patience and I hung out.
Yes.
We were at a conference.
Yes.
And the topic just kept popping up in different sessions, and we were like, oh yeah, we on the right track with what we're going to talk about on Monday, because we'd already decided what the topic was going to be.
Yes. I think that I think we hear so much about attachment, even if they're not using the word attachment.
It's relationship.
Yes.
It is relationship.
Yes, and so I think that drew us to the topic in the first place when we we actually do sit and coordinate kind of what we're going to talk about, you know, in advance. And so when this one, I don't know, it's just like the timing was perfect. The timing was right. And you know what's funny? It's summer. Everybody outside, so we probably need to help them get it together
in their relationships.
If you out there looking for that special someone, maybe we need to help you work on some things before you get outside.
Because last summer didn't work out well. It's funny because I was having a conversation with one of my supervisees, and she said something about, she said, yeah, I'm noticing this trend. She said, you know, everybody in January was like, she's like, someone's like, I'm looking for a new love. So they find this love, and then, you know, around Valentine's Day, things are kind of like, ooh, we're just all in love. She said now they're like, I hate him, or I hate her. We don't love each other. We're not together anymore. And she said, then they're like, ooh, it's summertime. Let me get out here and find somebody else.
How about that?
And I'm like, that's the cycle.
Exactly, it is. It get cold, you gotta find somebody. You get hot, you go outside.
You outside trying to wrap up for when it get cold.
Exactly, and the crazy thing is, if you find yourself in a cycle of the same situation all over again, guess what? You are at the right place at the right time, because we're about to talk about that right now. So let's talk a little bit about attachment styles. There are 4 attachment styles, and so we're going to break those down for you here in a minute. And so what we know about attachment styles is that they were created by 2 therapists who recognized, this was Bowlby and Ainsworth, and what they recognized is that some of their clients kept going through these cyclical situations in relationships. And so as they explored and decided to do research around it, they recognized these patterns, and genius, we need to really practice. Like, what are we noticing so we can, in genius mode, they created attachment styles, and look at us now. We are using those
in
all
all
the
our
time.
work. People use it in different spaces, not only, you know, the other therapists, but even in other professions. They are able to see, you know, use this information and be like, oh, okay, how can I work better as a leader with my team, because I see these certain things show up. Grief word, you see, you know, it's because we're relational people.
Yes.
And then, you know, it's social media. You can TikTok it.
All of those things, exactly. Yeah. And so what they recognized is that after they did their research, that there's these 4 specific styles of attachment that goes back to your primary caregiver. Yeah. And so one thing we both were saying is that it's important that you recognize the language in that, which is your primary caregiver. Oftentimes, in most of those situations,
are your biological parents.
And so if you have taken an attachment style quiz, you see that they give you a set for, each parent. But that also means, was it your grandmother?
Yeah, because if that was your primary person, because mom or dad was not around or absent, the grandmother usually is the one that is there. Or I hear like my granddad, and when they lost their relationship, either good or bad, it has impact, because we're like, I'm just, I hear like, oh, my granddad was my person. That's who I ran to when I wanted to feel safe, when I wanted to feel loved, who saw me. Yes. Or my grandmother, if mom wasn't around, or dad wasn't around. So yeah, but it is your primary caregiver, that person that had that major influence on you between the ages of 0 and 3, and it's the person that a lot of times you would feel that would make you feel loved and your worth, made you feel safe.
Yes, important.
When you are like, if you got hurt, who would you go to, and how would they show up? Would they love on you, care for you, or would they be emotionally distant or distant?
Yep.
Tell you, get on back up. You're not hurt.
Yeah, it's like availability. What was their emotional availability
for
to
you?
Yeah, I think that's important. So, and I think that one big thing we want to say too, is we go into attachment styles and we talk about like understanding that it is whatever on your parent or your primary caregiver. We're not like,
it doesn't make them a bad. Yeah, it doesn't make them a bad.
Or based on that. It's really
just giving you understanding
of how you show up in the world. I think that's often what I have to say to my clients is like, well, my mom and dad, I'm like, hey, love. Yeah. We are not here to bash your mom or dad. Right. We are not here to bash grandmama or nana or big mama or
because
papa.
They could only show up from what they knew, because they were going from what they learned and how they experienced attachment. Because we were we were talking prior to coming on, was when we were in one of the sessions where they were talking about how things go not only from grandmother to is mother, is us as the person, mother, and then grandmother. And it's like, so how grandmother parented our attached may have an effect. It has an effect on how mom, either mom is gonna be like, I'm not gonna do that when I have my child, or you take up certain things and then it has the impact on who you are today and how you show up in your relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the thing is, and not to get off into trauma work because that's another session.
Yes, that's another episode.
But we're like, even in utero, how that impacts
the developmental
part, and then the stress that they might be over once you get here, or your mother got here, and then the stress your mother might have been under when you got here, and so then how they were able to show up, because based on back in the day, how often was postpartum really actually diagnosed and treated?
You're right.
So I think those are things to remember as we talk about attachment style, so that it's not like, hey, I'm not going to have this whole conversation with my mom about how she didn't, or grandma, or whoever, how they didn't show up. It's like, no, this is probably what has impacted why I am having such a difficult time being able to do X, Y, and Z in intimate relationships with friends, co-workers, whatever it is. I think
it's all about relationship. It is. It's about how we relate and connect.
So what are the 4 attachment styles?
Anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and then it's one they talk about disorganized or anxious avoidant, where it could be a combination of the two, and then safe attachment. Secure attachment.
And I think that's where we're all trying to work towards. Right? Is that we all want to get to when working, I don't know about you, but when I'm working with my clients and I explain, before I even give them the quiz that I give them, I always say, first of all, read all of these and where do you think you fall? Because I think I want them to see what connects to them and where they think they are. And then the other thing that I say is understanding that we are all working to get to a secure attachment. We all want to feel safe. In our relationships with other people, and we get to define what safe is. What does that look like for us in these relationships? And the beauty of working with a clinician is to say, well, that doesn't sound, you still sound like you're avoiding, or you still sound anxious. Let's really get a healthy definition of secure attachment and of safety for you. So again, those are secure, avoidant, anxious, and
anxious, avoidant, disorganized
attachment style. So we're not going to give you a whole big synopsis of those. We want you to please go educate yourself on what those are. But we are going to give you just some really brief kind of characteristics of these particular ones. And so I always like to start with anxious. I don't know. That one is what I see the most. And so I don't know. What about you? What do you think you see more frequently?
I'm trying to think. For me, it might be avoidant.
Okay.
Yeah. I might see more people that avoid. Now I'm gonna have to be more conscious of what is showing up.
Yeah, because I think the reason I say anxious, and a little bit about anxious avoidant, anxious attachment style is you are seeking validation. And so when you are 0 to 3, right, this is when you maybe were in need of someone to show up for you, and maybe they did,
but not the way you felt they should.
Emotionally. And then you were also worried, some days mom or dad might be like, oh, it's okay, I love you, and then the next time, same scenario, they might not do anything at all. So that leaves you on eggshells. What should I do? How do I move forward? It's is mom and dad gonna hug and kiss me this time, or are they gonna tell me to get up, stop crying, and I'm okay? And that inconsistency provides you with this anxious feeling that you don't know what to do with. So you're always seeking out somebody to say, I love you. You're worthy. I want to be with you. I'm not mad at you anymore. It's not your fault. You're looking for all of that, and because you need that, because that wasn't consistent for you during those attachment years of your life.
Your relationships.
Yes, and so that is kind of like an overview. So if you're that person that's kind of always seeking somebody to affirm their feelings for you, or affirm that you're enough, you might
have an attachment.
You might be on that anxious attachment spectrum, which we like to say is always on a continuum.
Because it's not, I don't think we all have just one, and that's just it flows on from one end to another of it depends on the relationship.
Exactly.
Because some relationships you may feel more secure in, but you still have that, that narrative going on. It's you've been safe all these years, but is it okay?
Is it okay for me to be vulnerable? Is it real?
Yeah.
Are you going to flip on me? Is it going to change?
Yes.
And so you might find yourself on one end being comfortable and okay, and then on the next, still questioning, is it a safe space for you to be in? So that is kind of what I often see with my clients. They are struggling, not that their parents weren't available or accessible to them, but that they were maybe inconsistent in how they showed up for them. So they are, even in their relationship with me, of are you proud of me? I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's talk about that. Why do you need me to be proud of you for whatever action it is that you've done? So pay attention to that language and that behavior. Not saying that specifically you are that, but that could be one of your attachment styles. Okay.
And then with avoidant, it is because of the inconsistency. You don't. It shows up as I'm not going to be emotionally available for you. I don't trust people. I can't commit to it. I always tell, these are probably the people that say they're a runner. They don't run. If the relationship, if something is going awry in the relationship and it's not a bad thing, but they still not getting what they want, and they don't want to feel that vulnerability, those emotions. They're like, I'm gonna pack up all of my stuff and go. It's not, this is not working for me. And I kind of laughed. I was like, but I thought you said you wanted to be in a healthy relationship. And they're like, but it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. What if I do stay and that person doesn't stay with me, or different things like that? And I'm like, but you have to sit with the being uncomfortable and trusting yourself in it. To be okay that, it's gonna be uncomfortable having to share your emotions, because a lot of times it's like the emotions are locked behind a wall. And that's because emotions were not healthy to be shared when they were growing up as a little child. Like when their emotions, sometimes it's like their emotions, even though they were not big, their caregiver couldn't handle it or told them, you cry too much, stop all that crying, because like it's still some of the same language. It's like, how do they see it and hear it? And it's like, okay, so my emotions are too big, so I'm just gonna shut my emotions off and not allow myself to experience them.
Yeah. And I think a really big thing with avoidant is, I'm not gonna tell y'all why I know so much about avoidant, is that it is, what they say is that the research says that, when you were 0 to 3, that you maybe were crying and no one came to pacify you or to coddle you or hold you. And so what you learned to do was to fulfill it for yourself. I'll take care of me. I'll make sure I'm okay. I'll satisfy my needs and make sure, because the people who were supposed to do that for me didn't show up. So if my mother, father, primary caregiver didn't show up, and that's the person who had the responsibility of doing it, why should I even trust you, random person who's just getting to know me now, to fulfill that need?
Trust anyone.
Yes, to fulfill that need. That's my brain can't even wrap my mind around that. And in that avoided attachment style, you have kind of put yourself in this place of kind of the safest person to be with is me.
Yeah. Because you're going to take care, because I can take care of myself.
Exactly.
I can take care of my own emotions. I can be, it creates almost a self-reliance and an independence.
Exactly. And somebody's like, so, what's wrong with that? That should be okay.
But not in everything.
And not in everything. And you should be able to identify
your safe people.
Safe people, what you need to feel safe, what you need to feel secure. If you hear that and you're like, what do I need to feel? What can someone else give me to help me feel safe? And your answer is nothing, then that is unhealthy.
Right. Because you're putting a lot of burden on yourself.
Yes, and we're human.
Yeah. And we're built for connection and being able to ask for help.
Yeah, it's about relationship. I think you've said that multiple times. It's about relationship, and I think that part gets lost in the avoidant attachment.
And we want relationships because we were created for relationships. I'm a believer in that. Is that we were created to be in relationship with one another. So when we isolate or say, "Oh, I don't need friends" or things like that, that's the biggest lie we telling ourselves, because it's like, it goes back to, I can't remember, like the children that didn't get hugged, like the failure to thrive.
Oh, okay.
Is because they needed touch, they needed to be in relation, they needed connection. So we as humans, we need connection.
Exactly. And so I think that's important. And then there's do you want to talk a little bit about the disorganized, which is
a mix of
those two things.
A mix of both. You go back and forth between anxious and avoidant in your attachment styles,
which can be confusing for those who are trying to be in relationship with you, right?
Because one minute you want me to affirm you,
love me, see me, hold me, touch me, please,
right? And then the next is like, I don't need that.
I'm good. Yeah. All right. And so the person's like, I don't know how to show up for you.
Right.
Because you don't know what you need.
Right. That's it. You don't know what you need. Do you need me to be there for you, or do you not want me to be there for you?
Exactly. I've changed my mind.
So
you too much.
So it's like they're going back and forth.
Like, hey,
going back and forth.
Right. And then we're all trying to thrive and secure, right?
Yes, we all want to move to a place of secure attachment
Yes.
in our relationship.
Yes, yes.
And that goes to, you know, being able to affirm yourself, but then also being able to ask
Yes.
for it when you need, knowing that you are not broken, that you're not unworthy. Knowing these things, learning those things, being able to establish healthy boundaries, knowing that a person is not going to leave just because you said no.
Exactly.
And not taking on that onus if they do decide to walk away, that it's okay. That it wasn't about you.
Exactly. I think it's so important in attachment in general. It's when I'm working with people, it's always saying like, hey, what is the narrative you are saying to yourself about yourself? Because that too plays a really big part in your attachment style, right? If I'm saying I'm not enough, then the behavior, I'm a CBT, cognitive behavior therapist at heart, right? If I'm saying that about myself then and feel that about myself, then the actions that manifest themselves are that, right?
It's
I'm not enough.
beliefs.
Yes, and so if that is constantly what's going on, if that's the conversation I'm having with myself, she or he doesn't love me, they're not showing up for me, I'm not worthy of it, something that I'm not doing right, well then the behavior that I, manifest is going to display for them is going to be that. But if I'm saying I'm worthy, I'm enough, I'm not defined by, my past,
giving yourself those good affirmations, because attachment was born out of some of that those core limiting beliefs and those core beliefs that we have within ourselves, and like you said, what we're telling ourselves.
Yes, and that we have probably carried on through ancestry, right? Through what grandma was saying to mom and what mom was saying to me, and then what I'm going to say to my kids. Exactly, it's that thing. And so I was telling Dr. Dangersfield before we started taping, I was like, I am avoidant, unfortunately. And I said, not because my mother wasn't present. My mother was a single mother at the time with 4 children. There's a big gap in the 2 sets, working 2 jobs, making sure our Maslow hierarchy of needs were being met.
Yes.
And so when she was present, she was present as best she could. She had to sleep, she had to eat, she had to make sure she had to divvy that time up between 4 children. But she also taught us a resiliency in self, and so oftentimes I will go into a place, as my dear sweet husband Dr. Ruffin, that I will go into this place like, I got it, I'll do it, it's whatever, I'm on it, and it's so funny. Full self-disclosure, every good therapist has a therapist. My therapist, when we were talking about avoiding, she was saying, I'm on this continuum of being avoiding. She is like, name me how your husband can help you. What can he do to help you feel safe? I said, oh girl, that gave me like a chill. And she said, what? I said, because why does he need to make me feel, she just fell out. She fell out like, okay, therein lies the problem, ma'am. Like, you have to really allow space for him to show up for you in that way. And so I've been working on that, y'all. The Lord is working on me, and I am working on me to be open to understanding that she had to do a lot of things for her survival, for our survival. And so that's not my story. My mother's story is not my story. And so the things that she had to do to be okay, I don't have to do those things. I actually do have a sweet, loving husband who is willing to be present and to help. And so I'm really working hard in that area so I can move from that avoidant and trying to, because she said, it's not that I don't want to feel and I don't want to feel safe and secure. That's not the problem. It's just that I feel like I can accomplish a lot of other things by myself. And so that's my continuum of avoiding. And so if you recognize that, and it's on a subconscious level. So, being able to pay attention, or having someone close to me, a good person, therapist, to say, that's that behavior pattern. Look for that, seek that out so that you can recognize it and make some adjustments and changes. See, that could be one of y'all problems in y'all marriage right now. Boom, I just helped somebody. Don't be me. Don't be Dr. Patience. Do you know your attachment style?
Yes, I'm avoidant.
Why does that not surprise me? Of course we are. Where do you fall on the continuum of avoidance?
I fall somewhere, like I'm more like I'm avoidant, but also I can see sometimes like some of the anxiousness shows up. And like for my story, because like when you were talking about developmental, I wouldn't say trauma, but like making those connections, I was born 6 weeks early, so I had to stay in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Even though my mom came to visit me every day, I don't know what was going on when my mama wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So what, you know, like, and we know nurses, and back in those days, you know, I was like, because I'm black, born in a white hospital. You know, I don't know what was my needs getting met when my mom wasn't there. Right, how was I soothed? Now, I know, you know, my mom would come visit me every day and, you know, stay there. But I learned also how to take care of my emotions on my own. And so, and, you know, that whole, do I need help? No, I don't. Because, you know, I learned those things. And then, like, being at home, I was the only child for a long time. So, you know, I had people dote on me, but I also learned how to take care of me. And so, and it shows up sometimes in my relationships. I laugh because, like, people like, wait, I'm like, I'm cool over here. I'm good.
Because I figured it out.
I figured it out. Because, like, automatically when something's going on, it's like, oh, I got that. But what I have been working on and learning is to ask. To ask for help, or allow people to show up for me, because I have friends that call me out on when I go in, and if I stay in too long, they like, hey, come on, or they'll ask the question like, what is real, you know, what's going on, what you want to talk about, being able to do that. So
yeah, which is moving you towards a secure attachment style.
Yeah, because I've developed some friendships that I know that I couldn't live without.
Yeah. So that's important. I think and without that self-awareness, and if we hadn't done the work to figure that out, then we wouldn't know what we needed to move us towards a secure space. And so that's why we want to challenge you to, if you find yourself with any of these descriptions that we talked about, or you take a quiz, or you read a book or something, and you recognize like, man, I have a tendency towards this type of style, then pay attention to what it takes to get you to a secure space. And don't feel like you have to do that in a silo. I think one of the really cool things that I would suggest you do for awareness is find someone to talk, if it's your spouse, a sibling, a friend, to talk about your attachment style with, and how they see you and how you show up, to give you some awareness. I think one other cool thing to do is watch TV. Attachment styles show up in characters all the time. If you watch an episode of Friends, you can see every single person. Yes, if you watch Living Single, whatever it is, Aging Myself, any of those shows, you can kind of catch any of those and maybe see yourself. And so I challenge you to kind of do those things. And then what does it take to move me from this anxious, this avoidant, this whatever, to a more secure version of myself? And watch how your relationships adjust.
They will shift.
That'll be powerful. So I hope you got something from that. I love attachment. We could go on and on and on about attachment styles, because I love it, and it helps me help others and myself, as y'all can see.
And, you know, because I'm the reader, she talks about TV shows, but if you're looking for some good books on it, Attached is a real
Don't you have
good
that over
book.
here?
No, not that one.
Okay.
Attachments, that's another one. Why Am I Wired This Way? I think.
Oh, that's a good one.
Why I'm wired this way. But it's some books out there, or some podcasts out there. You can just type it in, and you can just type in attachment styles, and there are plenty of podcasts out there where some people giving out some really good information.
Yeah, so please check into that and take a look at that.
You don't have to do it by yourself.
You do not. And if you need us to send you a link or something, just DM us.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure you get that. Speaking of DMing us, Dr. Dangerfield.
You can find us. You can find us on Instagram at I Am Brown Girl Banter, which is just probably where you found us today when you watch this. You can find me at I Am Dr. Dangerfield on Instagram.
And you can find me at I Am Dr. Patience on Instagram.
And then to follow, subscribe, and catch our YouTube videos, you can find us on YouTube at Brown Girl Space Banter. And you can just like us, you can subscribe, you can share.
Please share.
Yes, please.
Yes, share with you and your partner.
Yes.
Especially this episode.
Yeah. So.
All right, it's been great. You all take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.